Welcome to Sports Ophthalmology, a podcast for ophthalmologists and trainees interested in providing eye care to athletes. I am your host, Jared Tuttle. Join me as we hear from national leaders in this exciting subfield of ophthalmology. Dr. Kenneth-Nwosa is an assistant professor at UT Health San Antonio and head team physician for the University of Texas at San Antonio and their NCAA Division I athletics program. Dr. Ken completed medical school and a residency in family medicine at the University of Texas Medical Branch in Galveston, Texas. He then completed a primary sports medicine fellowship at the world-renowned Andrews Sports Medicine and Orthopedics Clinic in Birmingham, Alabama. Dr. Ken serves as Chief Medical Officer for an athletic trainer residency and was recently appointed as a member of the Medical Advisory Committee for the American Athletic Conference. Dr. Ken, welcome to the show.
It's great to be here. Thank you for the invite. I really appreciate it. Really, really do.
So first off, we'd like to hear how you got involved with sports medicine. Why sports medicine?
So I was in your shoes back in medical school. So MS1, MS2. I got into medical school wanting to just be a physician. I didn't really know a lot of different type of specialties. I knew that, there are surgeons, there's family medicine docs. And originally when I was just, scrolling through the TV channels, I saw Dr. James Andrews and it said sports medicine physician. And I was like, hey, I like sports. I like medicine. So I probably like sports medicine. And I was able to start a sports medicine interest group at my medical school. And I was able to co-found it with one of the current faculty here, Dr. Alberto Oseguera. So we were able to kind of cultivate this environment where we just tried to understand more about sports medicine. And then we're like, hey, we actually like the primary care aspect of sports medicine in which, you're able to have a connection and a personal relationship with athletes that is outside of the OR. So ever since my time in medical school and going to residency, I was like, hey, I really want to be a team physician. I really want to be a sports medicine doc. And I had the opportunity to go to fellowship in Birmingham. And then now I'm a team physician for UTSA and a Division I university. So it's really awesome to kind of be in this position, knowing that I wanted to accomplish this when I was in your shoes, when I was at MS1, MS2, heading into MS3.
What was your experience like reaching out to different mentors within the field that you found yourself wanting to get into?
So it was interesting because in Galveston, we actually didn't have any type of any specific sports medicine physician. Like there wasn't a fellowship trained sports medicine physician when I was in medical school. So we actually had to reach out to the surrounding cities. So we reached out to Houston with Dr. Bojani, who kind of provided opportunity to provide mentorship that was outside of the orthopedic sports medicine world. So that was a really, really good opportunity to kind of figure out a mentor and then also go to a different city to see how they operate. And it was a medical center, so it was a very, very big, huge operation. And we got connected with the University of Houston. So it was, you had to kind of, if you really want to pursue something, you really have to stretch your neck out there, especially if you don't see the opportunities. And you have to really think about maybe creating your own path too. So if I waited to see like, oh, maybe somebody will create a sports medicine interest group, but then you're just wasting that time that you could actually say like, hey, how can I put boots on the ground and figure out how we can accomplish this? Because not only are you going to accomplish it for yourself, but then you think about all those other classes that are going to be behind you that are going to benefit from having that sports medicine interest group, that are going to benefit from having that mentor pipeline, having those connections at a different city. That's the kind of things you have to kind of think about when you are pursuing whatever goal you're trying to accomplish. Is that do it now, but you're also creating a legacy for the future.
Especially considering sports ophthalmology, there are plenty of ophthalmologists that maybe do it on the side. Maybe it's hard to find that kind of mentorship. And so I think that a lot of the people listening to this might resonate with that idea.
Exactly, exactly. And I know we're going to talk about it later, but there's a niche for a niche for anything, right? So you can kind of you can definitely figure out that little aspect and that little pathway that you can create, and you just have to put 100% effort, and then you'll be able to thrive.
Hmm. Love that. So, how often, as a sports team physician, how often do you find yourself collaborating with specialty care?
So all the time. So especially as a D1 head team doc, I'm actually dealing with 400 student athletes, 13 different sports, and 400 student athletes come with different ailments, different injuries that I can't treat by myself, and that I have to talk to actually, like, of course, I'm in constant communication with the orthopedic surgery specialist about how can we make sure that this player gets back to the field as safe as possible, but also returning to their peak performance. And then we talk about other non-musculoskeletal issues. So eye injuries, eye screening, talk about GI illnesses, cardiovascular screening. That was a very, very big part of return to play in the COVID period time. Being able to understand what you see on EKG and echocardiograms, being able to understand the risk factors moving forward with certain things that involve COVID. But yeah, I'm in constant communication with these specialists throughout the week, and you actually start to figure out which specialists you can depend on a little bit more. Which specialists actually have that interest in helping the athlete, which specialists are going to go the extra mile to take care of those student athletes. And that's what you kind of lean on more once you get a little bit once you get more chief complaints and other things that you can consider is like, oh, I got Doc so and so on the line. I'm going to call her up, or I'm going to call him up, and it just creates that pathway of care that student athletes really appreciate.
So, do you find that certain specialties are more have a greater desire to work with athletes, um, or how does that vary within specialty?
And I don't even say if it's a certain specialty. It's really up to the person. It's really up to the doc whether she or he likes to deal with athletes, or maybe they were an athlete themselves, or they like understanding performance, and how can we make sure that this person performs to the best of their abilities, and then maybe they have experience with the athletic trainer, they have experience with the team physician, and you find that those individuals are the ones that have that interest, and they blossom into becoming um, a reliable part in an actual uh, a very important part in overall athlete care. For example, radiology is a big one, right? So finding those MSK radiologists that not only like to read CT scans, MRIs, but they like to talk about it. They'll maybe call you up at night at 11 p.m. and say, "Hey, Dr. Ken, hey, I saw this. You put this order in. What do you think about this? This is very interesting." And being able to have that is pretty awesome. And to have those specialists very, very interested, it's just creates an awesome environment.
Yeah, it makes your job easier. It makes the care that the athlete receives so much better.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm. So, talking specifically now about eye considerations, how have you seen eye injuries play a role in the care of athletes?
So for eye injuries, it's really tough to identify, diagnose, and treat eye injuries on a primary care level. So one of the things that we deal with are, of course, are direct traumatic issues. So that's like, corneal abrasions. If you have issues with the retina, you get worried about orbital fractures and contusions that can actually involve the globe. And those are scary, and those are emergencies, and you have to have those specialists online. But even not even just injuries or ailments in general, but screening. Screening is a big thing, especially in the collegiate level. Is that so many kids come from high school without ever having a proper eye screen, and then before you know it, their vision is worse than 20/40 and I can't clear them for a specific sport based off of our pre-participation guidelines. And they're just like, wait, what? Why not? I've always been able to play. So even that pre-participation physical, eyes are so important. Vision is so important for the overall athlete's health.
So that so is 2040 passing. If they're 2050, then they fail the physical.
Mm-hmm.
Is that line set from like NCAA standards, or is that a conference requirement?
So it's pretty much a national guideline that we follow. So 2040 is anything better than 2040 is passing. Anything worse than 2040 is considered failing, you would say. But it also depends on what type of sports they play. So you have to watch out if they're playing a projectile sport, like you get into more Olympic sports like rifle and other things that archery, things that can actually have a very precise contact to your eyes that you get concerned about. But then also baseball, softball, things like that. And then whether or not they can actually wear protective eyewear during their sport. So that determines. So you kind of have to base their what they get on that Snellen eye chart, and what are you going to do to be able to treat it, if they need corrective lenses, or do they need protective eyewear to participate in their sport. And that comes from that 2040, 2030, 2020. You figure it out from there.
Do you find yourself like requiring that eye protection? Is it just up to the athlete? Does the conference or NCAA have specific guidelines for eye protection?
So there is, I wouldn't say the NCAA or conference has specific guidelines. They like to make things very, very vague and kind of put it up to the school and also the training and the education of the team physician or consulting specialist. Luckily, I
Mm-hmm.
haven't had to um, treat or put out a prescription for protective eyewear. It's mainly just been about corrective lenses. Sometimes, we recommend, hey, you probably should try contact, but if they don't like contacts, then we recommend the rec specs. So, yeah, luckily, I mean, the NCAA does not have a kind of a very stringent red tape around what we should do for protective eyewear. But as you go through fellowship, as you actually look at the actual overall national guidance for those corrective eye lenses and protective eyewear, you have to do your due diligence as a physician or consulting service.
So I've heard that there's the ortho doctor. He only cares about the bones or about the joints or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the team physician. He deals with everything else. But if it's an eye issue, like then neither of them are willing to deal with it. They got to call in the ophthalmologist. Is would you say that's a reasonable stereotype?
No, that's it. I mean, so it's based that kind of role has evolved, right? So sports medicine started in the world of orthopedic surgery, and as orthopedic surgery becomes more innovative, as it becomes more precise, the technology and the skill behind surgery becomes more and more. Uh, just more and more advanced. You have to kind of put all your thought and energy into perfecting that craft. So a lot of the times when you are dealing with the orthopedic surgeon in the realm of sports medicine, is that they like to stay in the OR. They like to talk about operative treatments, and so that's why with the primary care sports medicine docs that are getting are fellowship trained in non-operative musculoskeletal issues, is that they're able to kind of fill in that gap and say like, hey, we can treat this non-operatively, and then also with discussion with the orthopedic surgeon, you can figure out the overall total care. And then the non-operative primary care sports medicine docs are also educated in the realm of different specialties: cardiology, respiratory, ophthalmology, nephrology, GI. However, you can be a jack of all trades, but you're not a master of every single one. So there's a certain limit. So if I know that it's just okay, we're just dealing with conjunctivitis, right? And I can treat conjunctivitis. I can prescribe the antibiotic. But if we're on the field or if somebody comes into my clinic with a significant eye injury that I'm worried about, hey, this actually we have to patch your eye for right now and send you emergently or urgently to an ophthalmologist. That's when we have to kind of know what our limits are and then be able to give that athlete the best possible care by sending to an ophthalmologist or eye specialist.
How do athletes generally react when you're taking care of them? What's unique about an athlete compared to other
Yeah,
patients?
an athlete compared to the normal population, you could say, athletes are very driven, right? So for better or worse, they are very, very driven people. They want to get better. They want to get out on the field, and you have to have that discretion to understand: are they putting themselves in harm's way to get out on the field? And if so, what are you doing to make sure that they are protected? And are you doing your best possible? Are you trying your personal best and the actual your gold standard level of care to get this athlete better? So the communication is different. The communication is about, maybe you have to calm them down and say, hey, don't push yourself. Okay, take it easy, right? Or maybe you have to say, like, hey, like, I understand you. You want to get to where you want to be. This is your goal. This is how we're going to reach this goal. So the communication can be a little bit different in terms of maybe you're a little bit more goal oriented. Maybe you're a little bit more cautious about what they're doing and how they're pushing themselves. And most athletes and most care for athletes, it also involves a lot of collaborative effort, whether talking to their coach, the athletic trainer, or a physical therapist. You're really having a team approach to get this athlete back on the field or court to the best possible in their best possible performance.
So how does that let's say the athlete had an eye injury, they're sent to the ophthalmologist, seen by the ophthalmologist. They have maybe a recommendation of how long to return to play. And how is that communicated to the coach and to the
Mm-hmm.
team?
So there's so especially in the Division 1 level and professional level, and in most high schools, there's an athletic trainer. An athletic trainer is the point person and is the eyes and ears of the athlete. They're the heartbeat of the whole process of sports medicine. So there's normal communication with the athlete about their injury, and the athletic trainer can communicate that problem to the physician. Then the physician is now collaborating with the athletic trainer on how to get this athlete the best possible care. And so normally, and what we like to see happen is that when an athlete sees a specialist, the athletic trainer is right there to be able to understand and process the information from a health care professional standpoint and be able to relay that information to the physician and also the coach. But also, what we like to see is that the specialists themselves are contacting the physician, because we have that physician communication that we learned in medical school, that we learned in residency, and we should be able to have a productive conversation to make sure that we are covering all our bases for an athlete or student athlete's care.
So yeah, that's something that's new to me. The idea of having the athletic
Mm-hmm.
trainer at the
Mm-hmm.
appointment with the
Yeah,
athlete.
yeah. So the athletic trainer, and that's kind of like what differentiates, especially the collegiate and professional athlete, is that you're gonna have their athletes have more people on their corner, and the athletic trainer is the person doing day to day rehab, doing the day to day care. Maybe they're doing initial point of care testing for strep, COVID, flu. They're looking to make sure that they're doing okay. They're probably following a dermatological issue. They're following the rehab and proper healing of eye issues. So the specialists that understand the value of an athletic trainer, they'll be appreciated more, because then the athletic trainer can contact them about little issues and they can probably refer them and kind of promote their that this doc understands the athlete. This doc understands sports medicine. Therefore, I'm gonna talk to him a little bit more about my athletes and getting them seen in a timely manner.
So even the specialist can have that sort of interaction with the trainer, and maybe they're communicating, "Hey, this is recommendations for treatment moving forward," and then also notifying you as like the primary care
Hmm.
provider of that plan, and so everyone's involved, everyone's collaborating together.
Exactly. No,
Is that
that's
correct?
that's the that's the hope and that's the dream, right? For every single interaction, that is the hope and that's the dream that everybody is understanding, everybody's communicating with each other, specialist, athletic trainer, and the student athlete. And then anything that involves a coach, I just say, hey, athletic trainer is able to talk coach and be able to display that correct information and let them know the plan and coach speak and coach talk.
Yeah, I remember hearing you saying you try and stay away from the coach as much as possible. Is that right?
Exactly, and it's just kind of a practice I like to do because I feel like you can kind of have a little bit of emotional or conflict of interest in sometimes, and you just want to make sure that the athlete has an unbiased voice to be able to be their advocate. So the athletic trainer is always should be the point person in my opinion because they're there every day and they're in constant communication with the coaching staff.
So, aside from collaboration, what is something that you wish every subspecialty provider did better in their care of athletes?
It's just understand the world of sports medicine. You know, we're not looking for a hero to tell them that they can now run the last leg of a 4x1 in the Olympics. We're just looking for answers, and we're looking for understanding that this athlete wants to get back on the field as soon as possible. So if there's uncertainty about that, if there's uncertainty about return to play, then don't give an answer. Talk with the team physician, talk with the athletic trainer, and say like, "Hey, I'm not exactly sure. Maybe I need to contact a colleague that has a little bit more experience dealing with athletes." But just having that honesty and understanding where we're coming from is that we're just trying to expedite our care as soon as possible to make sure that this athlete fulfills their dream of being on the field or on the court and being the best possible sports person that they can be.
Do you feel what's something that's a common frustration that you experience when working with subspecialists, eye or non-eye
Oh, that's a
related?
tough. That's a very tough question. And again, I think it just comes down to knowing what sports medicine is, and knowing that time is of the essence. Like we're trying to figure out what is happening right away, so that we can treat it, so we can decrease the time that they're sitting on the sideline, because that's valuable to them. Every day matters in the world of sports. Every hour, every minute, every second. So it's a little frustrating when specialists don't understand that. But not a lot of specialists deal with athletes, and that's where you're able to carve out a lane of somebody of a specialist that can be relied upon dealing with athletic medicine. So yeah, that's the frustration, but I hope that there's solutions that are is forming down the line as more people get privy to sports medicine.
Do you feel like being available is like the biggest key aspect of a sports medicine
Yeah,
doctor?
availability is key. Is I always list that twice because availability is essential. Because if you're not there for any urgent calls, if you're not there for the athletic trainer or their corresponding athlete, then you're really letting down the whole team. You're letting down the athletes, especially. So you know what you're doing when you sign up for sports medicine, when you sign up to be in a team doc, and the more available that you are, you just have a better rapport with the team, better rapport with the athlete, and the athletic trainers can trust you to get the job done.
What are some ways that you balance that, that workload with family, with whatever you got else going on? I know
Yeah,
you got your
yeah.
son there. It's really great.
I mean, like for me, proximity to work was a huge thing. So being able to live 10 minutes from my clinics or has been awesome because then I can come home and eat lunch and be with my wife and son. Um, you know, I they go to the games, most of the games, just being able to kind of make things a family event creates creates uh, those work obligations makes it a little bit more easier to handle, and kind of creates that puts a little bit more life into that work life balance. Then also is it's just kind of you love your job, you love dealing with athletes, so sometimes it doesn't feel like work. And text messages, I'm so used to text messages that I don't mind sending a text here and there outside of the working hours. And it's just it becomes so ingrained with your day to day, especially after fellowship, that some of the times I forget that I'm on the clock because I'm enjoying what I'm doing, and I enjoy being part of the process of getting an athlete better.
What's some advice you might have for a resident in a subspecialty environment, ophthalmology? What's some advice you might have for them if they want to get involved with taking care
Just
of
start right
athletes?
away. Just join the interest group, even though they're going to be just like myself. I'm going to persuade you to do primary care sports medicine, right? So even though you're going to hear all this stuff, being
Yeah,
orthopedic to do sports medicine, but that's not true. It's like you can do what you want to do, but if you understand sports medicine, then it's more likely that you're going to be able to get in those circles. So it's a very, very small world. So if you're able to be in interest groups, you know what's happening, then before you know it, somebody in your interest group is going to be a team physician somewhere. And they're like, oh, yeah, this doc was in my sports medicine interest group. Now he's an eye doc. I'm going to send that guy over there, or I'm going to send, so having that interest, that networking, just start that now. Go to conferences, find a mentor, and just kind of build your network from here, from this point.
that's great. Great too. I feel like I want to take notes, but I can't take notes.
Oh man.
It's great. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with the sports
Not
ophthalmology
really. I
world?
mean, y'all just keep doing what you're doing. I mean, the sports ophthalmology world is much appreciated because of all the complicated injuries and treatments that, especially traumatic injuries that we deal with. I'm just appreciative of all specialists. I'm appreciative of athletic trainers and people that are part of this network that is here to protect the athlete, treat the athlete, and maintain their peak performance that we need to. So very, very, very honored to be part of this whole sports
Great.
medicine world.
One last question for you. What is your favorite
Oh, that's a
sport?
tough one. I might
If
get
you
in
had to
trouble
choose
from these
one.
athletes if they
Yeah.
if they if they stumble across this. But my favorite sport has to be basketball. It's just one of those free flowing sports that are just like the way that I like to play it, and the way that I feel when I'm playing it just makes me feel really cool. And it makes me feel like I'm in one with my body while playing it. And I like watching it. I like the superstardom. I like the amount of skill that it takes in order to be good. But then like second and third will be football and soccer, and it's kind of a tie because I really enjoy soccer. It's a beautiful game. The patterns that they have to make in order to have a productive attack is really great. And then football is just tough. It involves a lot of strategy, and once it involves a lot of wit, and not just strength, but it involves a lot of patience and wit in order to be really good. So those are my top three.
Well, thanks for being on the show today, Dr.
No
Ken. We really
problem. I
appreciate your
appreciate
time.
it. He was all right. He was. He was okay. I think he's falling asleep now. Yeah, I really appreciate
Yeah, not bad.
it.
Not bad.
Thanks, man.
Thank you for listening to Sports Ophthalmology. To stay connected and learn more, you can find us on Twitter, YouTube, and at our website, sportsophthalmology.com.